I found these past few months, actually this past year, to be extremely challenging for me. And I'm a problem solver by nature. I'm used to dealing with crisis and challenges, and I've become stronger for having learned how to cope with life's difficulties and rise above the many challenges that I've faced, having grown up in a family where many of my loved ones struggle with substance use disorder and mental health issues. As you may already know, I'm a mother of 3 grown children. My recovery work, particularly over the past 5 years, has strengthened and changed me in ways that have created a positive impact on my outlook on life, and hopefully created an even better positive model of strength and stability for my family. I thought that by now things would be different in the way that I would have more freedom in my life, seeing as my children were maturing and on their paths in early adulthood, making their own way in the world. This is one of the reasons why I embarked on the opportunity to share my experience, strength, and hope with other families seeking recovery and healing. With the support and encouragement of my loving recovery community, which includes Al-Anon family groups, my Al-Anon sponsor, my therapist, and I've also accelerated my recovery by being a student of the BALM, Be a Loving Mirror Comprehensive Family Recovery Program, with the added reinforcement of having worked with my own BALM recovery coach. This transformational experience helped reveal my mission and purpose, becoming a family recovery specialist myself. When I started focusing on my recovery journey, I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I was nearly broken spiritually, emotionally, and I allowed myself to become neglected and run down physically. I was desperate, and that's what motivated me to seek help and resources that I needed in order to, as we say in the BALM, get my life back and become my loved one's best chance at recovery. You might say that I reinvented myself and began a whole new chapter of my life. Adversity has been one of my greatest teachers, and out of those struggles, I emerged with a stronger connection to my higher power, which I call God, and I came to realize and accept that He had a plan for me, and that plan was coming into focus. For much of my life, I had resisted what is and had hoped my life would someday improve once others around me came to their senses and changed their ways. One of the many things I've learned is that I'm only able to change myself. And in doing so, I may have the opportunity to be a living example and influence others in a positive way. However, my ability to control other people, places, and things is something I'm powerless over. I've learned that my happiness and fulfillment depend on my own thoughts and actions, not on the state of my loved ones' lives or their sobriety. To quote Abraham Lincoln, a great leader who struggled with loss and depression, he said, "Most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be." With my children grown, it took time for me to deal with finding a new purpose in my life, and for me, it was emotional coming to terms with the empty nest. But my plans got sidetracked again. I never planned on the reality of having another aging parent to take care of. 9 years ago, I nearly fell apart while dealing with my father's traumatic passing. And now, seeing my mother's decline in relation to her health and mental capacities at times was alarming. This came at a time when I thought I would be free to pursue my path as a family recovery specialist, dedicated to taking the experiences of my past and turning the pain into worthwhile purpose in the service of helping other families. But my mother, who is one of my loved ones who struggles, needed me in a way that she had never needed me before. Her aging, compounded by the adverse effects of having abused drugs and alcohol and cigarettes for upwards of 60 years, was finally catching up and exacerbating most of her health problems, including cancer and dementia. She's been a widow for the past 5 years from her third husband, and for the most part has been living alone ever since. Unfortunately, there was no one else who was able to offer my mother the help that she needed. I love my mother, and I wasn't going to abandon her. It hasn't been easy becoming my mother's caregiver. This role was made even more difficult by her denial about the situation and her refusal to accept my help in managing her life and her finances, her home, and her health care. I knew that I needed professionals to back me up and to reason with my mother based on their findings, but due to the delays caused by the pandemic, it took over a year for the doctors to complete her health and memory testing in order for my mother to receive a diagnosis. so that I could then help advocate for the services she needed. In the past, I would have felt obligated by responsibility and guilt to take care of my mother, but as I've grown, I've viewed it as a way to honor my values. I love and care about my mother, and her well-being is important to me. So instead of feeling like a victim stuck in the situation, I reframed my thinking that I had to do it, and instead empowered myself in the decision by saying I choose to do it. As a result of my decision, there would be consequences. I would have to be flexible and give myself a break. The progress of my own goals and visions would be somewhat delayed, but I know that delayed doesn't mean denied. I realize that this too is also part of my ongoing education and experience about acceptance, which is something I have often resisted. I've been working on accepting what is as gracefully and lovingly as I can without allowing it to cause me further stress. Feminist Betty Friedan said, "You can have it all, just not all at the same time." As a woman with many passions, goals, and interests, I've leaned on that philosophy over and over. I must accept that things will evolve if they're meant to be in God's time. This acceptance and attitude have allowed me to be in the present moment and to be more at peace with my decisions as circumstances arise in life and as responsibilities shift and pull me in different directions. Even when you have a flight plan, sometimes you have to go off course, but eventually you can get back on course. If I hadn't learned about the necessity of self-care some years ago, I can't imagine where I would be today under all of the pressure that's accumulated. It's like the substance use disorder being progressive disease. When you're co-addicted, that is, addicted to the drama and the crisis created by your struggling loved ones, you will eventually crack. My anxiety and depression were once referred to by a doctor as situational, but it seems like it's been one situation after another for my entire life, and in between, very short periods for respite and recovery. Next, I'd like to share a little story that further exemplifies the need for acceptance and trust in a higher power.